Hello, everybody. It's Clint, and I know exactly what you want. You want some drama, you want some conflict, and you want Twitter. So that's what we're gonna do. I have to say, everybody's been really patient with me lately with my video content, partially because I haven't had a lot of time to put it together. But today I've got a great one for you. So stay tuned. We're gonna get into a really hot button issue, and that is question for comic book producers. When you ask an artist for their page rate and their response is, what is your budget? What do you think? All right, so we're going to get into that. First off, Downcast 3 Submerged. It's live on Indiegogo. Don't confuse this with Downcast Issue 2. That's different because the alternate issues are broken up from the volumes. We're sort of doing it backward here. Anyway, this is the latest of the Downcast story, the cutting edge, the newest stuff, and it should be shipping from the printer to me really soon. They're binding the books, so I'm looking forward to getting those, and I'm going to ship those out ASAP. So check that out back if you haven't yet. Fatal's making some really good progress. It's great to see Charlie drawing his heart out, honestly. Some really great pages coming from him. Back Fatal, if you haven't yet, let us hit the 100K just so I can die. That is all I need. All right, so here we go. I asked this question. First off, why did I ask this question? That's because I get added to a lot of DM groups on Twitter, more than I want to be on. And most of those groups, the vast majority of them, I never comment in and I rarely read. But I happened to browse across this, and someone made a statement in a DM room, and I thought, now there's a question I could ask. And I noticed I put this question out to comic book producers. I think it's often that we'll say comic book writers, and we'll assume that writers are the ones paying for everything, but that's not always the case. There are people that just pay artists, maybe they pay writers too, and they're just producing a comic book. Ultimately, they're financing the creation of a book, even if it's partially their finance, and the rest of it comes from crowdfunding. It's their baby, essentially. So it was pretty split here. Now, I've been asked this question personally by artists on a few occasions. I've said, hey, will you do a cover for me? Or, hey, what is your page rate for interior artwork? And probably I would say 2/3 of the time they just tell me their page rate. 1/3 of the time they'll say something like, what is your budget for this project? And I have to admit that question makes me feel a little weird. It's not that I hate the question. I'm still forming my opinion. But what it is it's like, then I get nervous that I'm going to tell them what the budget is, and they're going to laugh at me and it'll be embarrassing. Or I'll tell them, I doubt this will happen, but I have some massive budget, and they're going to tell me a page rate that is going to fill up my entire budget. So they're monopolizing the budget. Those are the worries. The reality is that they're probably coming at it from a completely different angle. So maybe there's some insecurities on both sides. But I want to look at some of these replies, and then I'll tell you exactly what I think. So Antoine Dennison said, I hate that question. It suggests that their rate is contingent upon what's in your bank account. I get that. Someone asked me that recently, and I just gave him an honest answer about what I was willing to spend, but I'd rather prefer folks show their hand before I offer mine. LOL. Another one from Antoine Dennison. As an artist, I've had to hustle work, and I've produced an entire comic book, pencils, inks, colors, letters, logo design, character design for $1,500. $1,500. How much? What are you talking about? If this is 1,500, let's say divided by 22 pages, that's $68 a page. Oof. That's that would be a lot of work for not very much money. Okay, so he said, continues, I tried to modify my approach to get done in a couple of months, but the client was not happy in the end. That's disappointing. All right, artists, just quote your darned page rate. It will be acceptable. It'll be acceptable or rejected or negotiated. Stop trying to count other people's money. Again, I'm not entirely sure that's really what the motivation is, but that can be how it comes off. Vaughn had a great response. Never tell anyone. I never tell anyone I even have a budget. This is the thing too, is the reason why that question can be a head scratcher is, especially when you're talking about crowdfunding, I I often don't really set a budget. Like I don't actually make, and I think a lot of creators are like this. You're not sitting down ahead of time and figuring out a budget that you're sticking within. You are bending over backward to afford the project that you want to make. And so there's some of that. So if somebody asks for an artist page rate and they don't have a budget, and maybe part of their process is figuring out what the budget would be, they're actually trying to build their project around the price of the artist that they want. So sometimes I think artists might not consider that they're not actually shopping around much of the time. They're trying to figure out how much money they need to scrape together in order to afford the artist that they really want. So that's possible. But in this case, it's client, what's your page rate? And then me, what's your budget? So that can definitely happen. Love that one. This is from Gilly Rice Comics. It's a feeler. If the artist is interested in working with you, asking that question can help save time. Just as there's always room for negotiation, at the end of the day, a business is business, even in comics. All right. And it may really depend, honestly, on who you're talking to. If you know that somebody's a new comic book creator, they probably don't have a massive budget. If you know that they've been around the block a time or two, you probably are going to try and get as much as you possibly can. Both are scenarios for sure. Sierra Whiskey said, this could be received in a few ways, but in this tiny community, it's best to talk it out. Word spreads around here. Yeah, absolutely. That goes, I mean, in all of comics, I think it really is relatively small. All right, another one here from Bridger 2022 says, if they want to be generous and work for less than they can do that after you know their standard rate, make them commit to a base rate. All right, next we have, it probably means they don't know what to charge. This is another thing too. If you're producing a comic book and you're talking to an artist, they could be just as insecure, or if not more insecure, as you are in a page rate and figuring it out. So maybe they don't really know and they're trying to find out what you're expecting. That's possible. He continues, if it's someone starting out, they might not know what their work is worth. So they're using your budget as a gauge. That's possible. Here's one. As an artist who has said this, the reasoning is this. Maybe your budget isn't as big as my page rate, but it's good enough for me to still take the project at a lower rate. Yeah, honestly, I think that could be the sentiment from a lot of, and notice I've been liking all of these. I am playing both sides of the fence. That's how it works. That absolutely could be how it is. So that's why I think it's important. If you're the one financing it, you got to understand where artists are coming from when they give you a page rate, and vice versa. If you're an artist, you have to understand how it could come off. Perhaps what's correct, I don't know. I'll tell you at the end because I have all the right answers. All right, I just give them my page rate. Sometimes they straight up tell me their budget without even asking. That happens too, for sure. Very reasonable. And I said, is this question reasonable? Very reasonable, because then we know how we can proceed. Maybe the artist is still willing to work with me with some sort of payment plan, or I can just simply say, hey, let me figure out what I can do financially to make this work. Communication on concerns is important. Absolutely. What I would say too is, if you have a page rate that you're hoping for, or a window that you're hoping for a specific project, don't include what you're planning on paying for letters or colors or whatever. You got to be specific if you're going to go that route and sort of divulge your entire budget, assuming you have this money saved up ahead of time. Again, if it's a crowdfunding project, you got to make sure that, you know, they're not going to literally take every cent that you raise. You don't have enough to pay for printing. You don't have enough to get paid yourself. You don't, you know, all of this stuff. You got to make sure that the budget is not being monopolized by the artwork. All right. If they respond, none of your business, be thankful you didn't get the job. coming from an artist, I would assume. Um, Here we go. Another one. Some intriguing replies here. It's a fair question. If the artist asks what your budget is, they may be about to do you a massive favor and lower the rate to meet your budget. Also, if you're prepared to pay someone a higher rate, don't be a dick and stiff your artist for less. And that's why I generally ask for a page rate. I will tell you though, I'm not stupid, and I think a lot of people aren't stupid. When you've done a few books and you've been around the block and you approach an artist to ask them how much it'll be their page rate or how much for a cover or something like that, and you know that they're a well-known artist that does great stuff, and they say, what is your budget? That's a really very positive thing to hear. And that is because they know that they're out of your league. If an artist is out of your league and they ask that question, you got to be honest here. Step back a minute. If they ask that question, that means they're willing to help you out. That's a great question to be asked. So consider that. If it's an unknown artist, or you know what I mean, you know the difference. Then they might be asking that same question, but for different reasons. So that's a very good point. Page rate first. After they come on board, be transparent as you can. And it depends. If you're considering this a joint venture, your business partners, then yeah, if it's work for hire, I don't know that it matters. I don't know that anyone needs to know a budget after the fact, for that matter, as long as you're happy with however you determine what the page rate is. All right, here's another one. I'd say neither, because the complexity of the project can have a huge impact. If we're talking about Ziggy or a smaller newspaper cartoon, I'd expect a page rate to go down significantly. If it were something like GON with lots of gradient tones and shadings, the rate should go up. Absolutely. So getting an idea of what the job entails. Let's see, here's one. It's just a question. Answer with an offer. He might make a counter offer. It's simple. It works in many other businesses. I don't understand why some people get so annoyed by that in comics/art. Okay, yeah. Context matters, of course, but when I ask what the budget is, I'm trying to clarify what I can do for that amount. But usually I can tell them up front what I can do for different prices instead of asking this question, so they know I ain't trying to be shady. Let's see, that's usual in design. So apparently when you're working in design, people ask what the budget is. I didn't like this one yet. If they can't give you a simple number, find another artist/writer, etc. Some things vary, sure, but page rate is the standard ask. If they are playing games before they're even hired, imagine the fun you'll have dealing with getting the work you paid for. And this is, I think, the perception by many. Again, I don't actually believe this is mostly the case, but the perception by a lot of producers or writers or whoever is paying the bill is that they're asking for the budget so that they can get the maximum amount from you, and that is how they're going to deal business. I'm not sure that this is actually reality, though maybe it is. If you're an artist and you're going to raise your rates depending on what their budget is, is that how you do it? Or you're just trying to see if they need help? Does it sort of go two ways? Or do you have your standard page rate and you're just going to see if you want to cut that back based on their budget? That's a great question. Let's see. Critical Blast says, my budget is 0. That's why I'm trying to figure out what my crowdfunding goal should be. Again, this is the other way around, is that a producer is asking what your page rate is because they want to afford you, not because they already have a budget they're fitting into. I think most of the time this is actually how it works. The budget is fit around the artist. They want you. If they're asking you, they want your artwork. It's not about the number as much as it is, can they make you their partner in this creative process. So consider that as well. I'd just politely pass if they ask that question. Let's see. Shay the Red says, I get the reasoning if they're willing to work on a price, but that's what the words, but for this project, I'm flexible. Yeah. So I think there's different ways to say the same thing. If your goal is to be flexible and work with somebody on the price because you want to take the job no matter what, but you want to make sure you get paid a fair rate, maybe there's another question you could ask besides what's the budget. That's possible. All right. Here's another one. If a business partner, yeah, so if they're a business partner, you need to know the budget. If a hired employee, you don't. An artist should raise their rates hourly and page as high as they can over the years while still getting work, lowering according to job. Slippery slope equals likely a poor experience and quality. Yeah, lowering according to job. So this is how things work, I think, in other businesses, in other industries. In photography, I know this is absolutely a thing. It's, hey, this is my rate. You tell people what it is. I used to have a window cleaning business. I would give people quotes and I would see their reaction. Now, if you're a starving artist, you really might not want to turn someone off like that. And that could be part of the reason why you're not willing to put out a page rate ahead of time, is because you still want the work. You know, you'll take the work. You got to make it. You got to make it happen. So I think the word negotiable, if you are negotiable, is good. If you're not, I mean, just give a page rate. Give a page rate or more. You know, or best offer. I'll take $200 per page or best offer. Let's see. Here's a response here from Mark. I don't have a page rate. If I like the project, I work on the project. I work it out with the writer/producer. That's a good point too. Again, it goes two ways. If they like the project, maybe that's a payment in and of itself. That's possible. It sounds like dealing with a car salesman. My usual response is, give me a price we can start negotiating at, or I'll buy from someone who will. All right, so get the page rate first. And if it's out of your budget, then tell them your budget. Okay, so that's sort of both. Here's one from Rooster Puncher. I don't have time to negotiate endlessly with an artist, so if I get what's my budget, it's normally the last interaction. Rates help eliminate guesswork and keep the ball rolling. I'm going to give you my 2 cents here on this one as well. I don't really want an artist that is negotiating. If we're talking about a cover artist, and they're going to give me a deal on a cover, man, that's amazing. That's fantastic. But having an artist working at a discount rate for an entire book, that's not really a feeling that I want to deal with, because are they going to finish the book? Is it going to be a priority? Are they disappointed every day that they look at your project? Are they going to do their best work? I would rather have an artist that is happy with their page rate than have an artist that is not happy with their page rate. And so that's important to me as somebody who hires an artist. Whatever that number is and how you arrive at that, it could be very different. But for sure, I don't like negotiating at all when it comes to art, for me personally, because if you feel that you're worth $4,000 a page, that is awesome. I'm sure your art is beautiful and totally worth it. I cannot afford $4,000 a page, so we cannot work together. But I might love your work. The same token, if someone's getting offered $50 a page, and to them it's like this is their first paying gig and they're super stoked about getting paid to do this $50 a page, they can be very happy. So that number could be very different, but definitely what I wouldn't want is to give somebody a page rate that they're just not happy with, whatever that number is. Let's see. Then how about offering them a rate to accept or leave? So yeah, you could do that. I have done that. In fact, if you post like on DeviantArt, for example, or there's other forums out there, I'm sure for artists, you could just publicly say, hey, I have a job. It pays X amount. Who wants it? And you're going to hear from people, and you can then pick, I guess, from the people that responded. So that's a way to do it, where you're giving a page rate, and then they're deciding if they want to take the job or not. Let's see. I would say just in life generally, if you're hiring someone for a job and they ask what your budget is, it's a big red flag, and you should probably move on. Every good contractor I have done business with gave me their quote after I told them what the job entailed. And again, this is a lot of people comparing it to other industries where you would never get that question. Like if you're going to get new cabinets installed and you were asking for a quote and they said, well, we'll give you a quote, but what's your budget? Because I'm going to make labor costs, whatever it needs to cost to get all of your budget, So that's a consideration. But is it different in the arts? Is it different? Because you often hear this in art. Perfectly reasonable question, but I don't see how my budget would affect their page rate. Here's a response: compromise. If I knew someone was an indie creator, but it's a project or script I really like, I'd do it for less. All right. Let's see. I recently put up an artist wanted page here. I didn't like this one yet. I gotta like all these responses. Let's see. I recently put up our artist wanted page, and there's the artist wanted page. It states budget, artist standards, page rate. This means I'm basically open to any budget if it reflects the artist's experience / ability. Anyone producing comics needs to know their number inside and out. Okay, continued. Not knowing your number is an instant sign of amateur hour. At the same time, artists should have a standard page rate, and they should know their numbers too. Of course, business is all about negotiating. As someone hiring, you should never be looking. It says continued, but there's no continue. Yeah. So good points though, like know your numbers. And I think if you are new or if you're trying to get your page rate raised, you're actually not really going to know until you start putting your number out there. And when you do that, you can see the reaction. Are people going to swallow really hard and politely decline, or say they're going to find another artist? Or are they going to pay up? Which is which? Or are they going to laugh and say, is that it? That doesn't happen that often, but it does. I have been quoted from people for various things. I've hired people for many things, and they've given me a rate that is so low and embarrassing that I said, no, I'm paying you this. That doesn't happen often, especially now that I have crowdfunded projects. Seems like everyone has a pretty high page rate. That's just how life is now. So there's that. But I am happy that again, if the numbers work for me and they work for them, then that's great. And I need to make my numbers work better when those conversations happen, for sure. All right, here's another one I didn't like yet. Now, you tell me what you want per page, and I decide if it fits my budget. How I handle my money is not a problem or a job for the artist to worry about. Okay, next one is, I'm wondering what the ratio to artists to customers is in the it's reasonable column, and that's the results up above. We'll look at that. Usually that means they're willing to work within said budget instead of quoting you something you can't afford. Yep, and that absolutely comes up. And if especially, you got to be objective. Are they an artist that's out of your league? Then if they say that, that's actually a really positive thing. Let's see. Here we go. Budget matters because projects differ and clients' expectations, timeliness, needs, quality, etc. have a major impact. Most professionals ask for budgets. All right. And again, this could be an art industry thing. Enter Dutch auction. Okay. You see how many comments I got from this question? You see how many comments? That's this is social media interaction right here. And it's split. And the reason why this was such a great question, I hadn't really given it that much thought. However, I do know when I've been asked that question, I always panic a little bit because I'm worried about them judging me or making fun of me or something. Is that fair and accurate? I don't know, but I do know that it's something that's on people's minds. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Is it good business practice for an artist or a writer, for that matter, to say what is your budget before accepting or rejecting a job? Or is it better to just simply give a page rate and let the chips fall how they may? I'd love to know where you fall on this issue. And do you think that this the outcome here is makes sense? It's pretty close, but actually reasonable question edged out the victory here. So thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in a future video.